Is it working? Come on. Oh, unable to connect. Come on, man. Getting going in just a minute. Trying to get this TikTok feed up and running. And then we got some stuff to take a look at. Come on, save it, save it, save it, save it. Let's go. All right, we should be picking up something here soon. Hello? What's the problem now? All right. Is this working? Hello, hello. All right. Is this working? Let's turn down the on the mic a little bit, just so we don't get all that static coming back through. Okay, what have we got here today now? Where's my TikTok lab? All right, there we go. Bam. Get that out, get that out. All right, guys. So, live on TikTok right now. Catching chats coming through there, but looking to see if there's anybody that wants to kind of make visible what it is about Kamala that they're voting for. I understand a lot of people are going to vote in that direction, but are they really voting for her, the policies, or are they just voting against Trump and the idea of the danger or the hazard that they've been made to feel afraid about? Because at this point, you run down the list of items, there's not a lot that's really, truly to your benefit to head in this direction with Kamala. I mean, I'm just going to name a few things here that we got. We've got tax breaks that were implemented by the Trump administration way back in 2018. Those are set to expire here pretty soon. And so that's going to hit people all across the spectrum. It's not just the richest 1% as they'd like you to think it is, right? Remember, this is income tax, and the richest 1%, do they really earn their money as income that they've actually worked for? I mean, most of their income is through passive means, which is taxed completely differently, right? You look at dividends, you look at portfolio income, asset sales, so forth. They make money through completely different means, but here we got um, Here we got Kamala saying that she's going to rescind those tax cuts that really benefited the middle class. You know, 3, 4, $500 extra a month. I mean, that's very meaningful, especially considering that we've had 9% inflation in the recent history. Actually, as we're talking about inflation, let me just really quick. I will digress and bring up. All right, there we go. So this is the BLS website. I'm looking at their official CPI calculator now to illustrate how bad things have gotten. You know, back in the day, hitting that six-figure mark, getting $100,000, that meant something. That was like a pretty big deal, right? You could really afford a lot at that point. But with the 9% inflation that's ensued, let's take a look at some stuff. I'm going to pick our baseline year is 1999 because that was not a coronavirus year. It's the only full year before coronavirus that everything was somewhat normalized. So what would $100,000 from 1999 equal in 2024? Like, what is the same how much money do you need to have the same buying power as $100,000 in 1999? And that's $191,000. So, and that's in a 5-year period. Has this happened before? Let's check. Oops, not 19. My bad. 2019. All right, there we go. $124,000. Ooh, got myself scared. 25% increase in the cost of living. And this is in aggregate. If you look at pockets, it's a lot more, right? Groceries will be a lot more. Other things that are needed for day-to-day life are quite a bit more. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that this issue is something that's really going to be fundamental or foundational for how people are going to vote this next cycle. So looking back, tax breaks, how that impacts people, that's going to be a pretty big deal. The 40% capital gains tax that she has proposed, along with Biden, I think that's another killer one. A lot of people have saved money for decades and decades, and so after 40 years of saving money in their 401k and their company matching it, the markets have made its way up to $1 million. Now that $1 million is going to start to get taxed at 40% if they're able to institute their policy. They were not specific in differentiating between retirement accounts versus just normal brokerage accounts. So everybody's going to be subject to that capital gains tax. And how does that match up with your retirement? You're expecting to pay long-term capital gains rates that were tax deferred, and now all of a sudden they want nearly half of whatever it is you have in your retirement savings. I think that's going to be a non-starter for a lot of people as this starts to get more and more detailed and focused on the core issues. I mean, you just go down the list of stuff. There's nothing here really that anybody can, kind of latch onto and really find something that helps or improves your life. I'm just not seeing it. I mean, I'd like to hear input from others, but I'm just not seeing it here. Let me see if I got any chats here. Noble victory, she's utterly abhorrent. Yeah, I mean, it's on many levels, right? There's many different layers to it. I'm going to stick to the policy one for right now, where I'm going to totally digress from where we're trying to take this discussion. So thanks. Lost you there. Noble from the YouTube side. Appreciate the comment. The next item I got here on the list, the multi-trillion-dollar climate agenda. Now remember, this is the foundational piece of the radical left strategy on completely wiping out oil and gas. This is the document that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came up with, where she wanted to eliminate cows and remove them from our, our supply chain, no longer eat real meat. That's all founded on this, right? And it's a multi-trillion-dollar transition. They want to end all vehicles. Everybody gets a electric vehicle by an aggressive time frame. But to what end, right? What 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 is that going to do to people? I mean, that's another one of those spending bills that's just going to completely go awry. I mean, if you think about it, we had to dump $2 trillion into the U.S. economy during 2020 because we didn't have a better solution. It was, higher risk not to do anything and try to analyze the problem versus just, put money into the system, get money into people's pockets, and get funding to businesses so they could pay their employees. That cost a lot. That was $2 trillion, but there was a higher risk outcome if we didn't take that action. Now, of course, you look at what Joe Biden did. He just, after that started to, we started to turn a corner on that in 2021. He decided, I'm going to go spend another $2 trillion on infrastructure and other social programs. I'm sure you can point to a road that was built for a few $1 million here and there, but honestly, where's the rest of that $2 trillion? What happened to it? Has it just completely evaporated? And if you think of those two pieces, $4 trillion printed so quickly in such a short time frame, and that's led us to this 9% inflation that hit us, right? And it peaked at 9%. It was escalating for months, maybe over a year up to that point. Had that second $2 trillion not been put in play, would inflation have been less? Would the impact to consumers have been less? And then what does that tell you for the competency of this administration? Bartonius says, I'm voting for her because it's time a woman is in charge. Men have done nothing but F everything up. So you're voting for her just for her gender. So, I mean, I'm critical of her because of her positions on issues. Oh, okay, you got me on that one. I was like, man, come on. That actually hurt my feelings a little bit, not really. But you go down the list of things on the climate agenda and you think that inflation was bad this last cycle. What happens when we print tens of trillions to satisfy that climate plan? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. There's no end to the spending. And I've never heard on the liberal side, especially the current ones that we have in play, I've never heard them express a desire for government to become efficient or effective. Appreciate the like. Definitely appreciate that very much. When was the last time, the government said, oh, we spent less money on something. We did it for less money, same quality, or we achieved some kind of outcome, but we didn't have to spend that full budget. We figured out a way to do it better. There's no incentive for them to be efficient. The way it works is they sign a contract with another company who will gladly take everything you give them, and they'll run to the bank with it. The shining example of that is the website that was created for Obamacare. Y'all remember how much that thing cost? That was a $1 billion website. I think the company's name was CGI out of Canada that did it. But as soon as, day one of enrollment came up, the whole thing broke. Nobody could do anything. And I mean, it was an absolute disaster for a good while. And they spent $1 billion on that. Now, think how much money got spent to create the first version of Facebook or the first version of Google. You think that cost $1 billion? I mean, it probably took them quite a few years before they even reached that level of spend. And here we are creating a website that is simply geared towards registering you to a set of health plans that are predefined, not very complex logic. There are some safety and security protocols that need to be put in place for protecting, private information, but $1 billion for that? Again, I don't trust the government suggesting we spend multiple trillions of dollars for this green climate agenda, and that it's going to be executed on efficiently or effectively. I think they've been listening to Al Gore a bit too much, to be honest with you. Student loan cancellation. I can see, I mean, they're buying votes with that effectively. They're buying votes of people that have high student loan debt and feel like they need to, do something to get out from under it. And, well, I'll vote for this party if they're going to take care of that loan for me. And maybe they'll continue to vote for them. They've just bought their vote. But, I mean, there's a few, moral dilemmas here with it, right? I mean, the first one is, like, from personal experience. I worked during college. I wrote that check for my tuition every semester. I bought my books myself. I did those things, and at the end of it, I did not have a student debt. There's other people who have took on student debt, and they did pay it off 5, 10 years, however long it took. They did pay it off, and yet a few years later, they're just forgiving them. So, I mean, should they have just allowed theirs to default until it was forgiven? What kind of behavior are we encouraging with that? What kind of expectation are we setting for, younger generations? If you get in a pinch, you can go to the government, they'll bail you out. I mean, is that really the message we want? Is that really how we want to encourage the young folks in the country? And then the last example is, what about the folks that did not go to college and their tax funds are going towards paying for somebody else's college tuition? And I mean, at the end of the day, too, you're making a decision. I am going to go study this subject, and knowingly it does not have a return that'll allow me to ever in my lifetime repay this massive debt I took on by going to Columbia for $400,000, and yet I majored in non-binary, carbon-neutral gender studies. I mean, what do you do with that, right? Not very employable. So the student loan debt piece is just extremely, I mean, it's just a mess. It's just a mess, to say the least. The part on Medicare for all, you can kind of get me. I'm a little bit softer on the healthcare side of things. I don't like hearing seniors not having the care that they need, having to skip days on medications. I mean, that's not okay. But for Kamala now, this is a demonstration of her hypocrisy and the political games she's playing. She's backing off on her support for Medicare for all. This was a Bernie Sanders policy that he was pushing forward really hard, and now she's backing off of it. That's not part of her platform. So again, why would she do that? She's trying to make herself seem like she's more of a centrist. I don't have it on here in the list, but she also went back on her insistence that we ban fracking. So now she's not for that kind of a ban. Fracking is fine. She will not ban it. Why would she do something like that? Again, it's very much a political game. Pennsylvania has quite a bit of oil and gas reserves that they're looking to exploit and bring to market. It brings a lot of tax revenue and jobs. It's really important for them. And that unionized workforce there doesn't want anything to impact their jobs. I mean, they saw what happened when the Keystone Pipeline was canceled. I got a video on somebody's personal story on my TikTok and YouTube and other pages. You can take a look at that, but they don't want a repeat of that. They know that'll cost them the election, so they're just walking that one back too. And of course, at that point, it's like, well, what principle do you stand on? I mean, I get, changing opinions as new information comes in, but honestly, there's no new information out there about fracking that would sway her one way or another. In fact, she's marginalizing a considerably strong and vocal portion of her base by taking that action. Of course, she doesn't really care for them. She's taking them for granted. She knows that they'll just follow along and do um, whatever she asks. So, I mean, in that way, it's really clear how they're playing politics here. They know that people are not voting for Kamala. And I'm talking about her handlers now. They know that they're not voting for her. They're voting against Trump. So they can, take these policy positions or make these changes because their base will support her regardless. And I mean, that's a problem. You're not talking about that kind of stuff. And then, the last couple items on there. Foreign policy, I have no confidence that she's going to be able to bring peace to the world, that she's going to be able to de-escalate all of the conflict that's happening right now. I have no confidence that she will be able to do any of that kind of work, or that she's cut out for it. And the last one, of course, is, California passed a law that the state can take your child if the appropriate state definition of affirming care is not provided. They can take your child, and then they will issue the appropriate affirming care to them. That crosses a red line. And I don't know how the folks in California can support that. I don't know how anyone in the nation can support somebody like that as their leader. So you just go down the list of stuff, and there's just no way that she's anywhere near qualified or on the right side of any of these issues to assume the presidency. But of course, late in the evening, you talk to folks, actually early in the morning, you talk to folks online, and you get all kinds of interesting responses, right? I had somebody who was an anarcho, what did he call himself? I don't know. He's for some type of anarchy, right? And he was suggesting that we should eliminate all technology, basically go back to the Stone Age, and limit population of humans. I mean, you get all sorts of folks, but then that's the fringe element that's in her party that she's bringing together, right? It's unbelievable. Yeah, there's really unbelievable stuff on that side. And of course, we have coming up here. So, I mean, that's the rundown of key topics that I'm looking at in terms of her points of view, the positions she's taking, the party platform, assembling that together. It's interesting, too. If you look at her website, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. We can take a look at it together. KamalaHarris.com. Is that her site? Okay. Let me bring it up. Hang on one sec, folks. Got to sort out how to do this. All right, boom. Okay, let's hide the logo for a minute. All right, KamalaHarris.com, right? Just went to the page. Has this little thing to close, but they have the floating element to donate. Close that out. I want to learn more about the position she stands for. Where do I find that? Where do I find that? Is it in their store? Donate? Maybe it's a frequently asked question. Privacy rights, terms and conditions, accessibility. Donate by mail, social links. Okay. Was there something at the top I missed? Take action, meet Kamala Harris, store, donate. Is it part of the meet Kamala Harris? Okay. Yeah, I don't see it. Where is her party platform? What does she stand for exactly? It's not here. And I know the screen's a little bit adjusted to fit on your mobile device, but there isn't anything here on the page. They just immediately splash that screen to have you donate for her. And they're asking for $47, oddly enough, right? Well, let's check Joe Biden's site. So joebiden.com. Maybe they haven't had a chance to move the party platform across, right? What do we got here? Okay. It's something the interns wrote on behalf of Joe Biden. He's asking for money now. He's asking you to make it a weekly donation. Contributions and rules. I don't know. Where do you go from here? There's nothing left. What does ActBlue website do? Now let's try. Donate to a candidate or cause. Features, blog, help. Where do they even like publish this? Where do they publish this? Okay, so here, now in contrast, right? Donald Trump's website. Okay, you're not hit in the face. I mean, there's a contribute button, and they're asking you to join the mission. I'm assuming that's just signing up for an email list or signing up for an event. But they're not hitting you in the face with donate now, right? So you could contribute and hit that, but what do they have here? Oh, look at the very first link. Look at the very first link here. Platform. He tells you about what he stands for. Why can't Kamala or Joe Biden do the same thing? Why is their page all about donate money now? What's the deal with that? You can go right here and see his platform. Agree or disagree with it. He put it out there. So for the folks that are also equating him to Project 2025, you won't find any of that in here, right? You see his own platform that he stood for. He doesn't have any linkage. He's not saying like, go see Project 2025 to see where I stand on things, right? But of course, on the opposite side, they don't have anything listed. I don't know if it's been taken down recently or if it was never there to begin with, but you just do not know where they stand. There's absolutely no clue there. So let's check on his platform, see what happens. I'll just take a look at it. Oh, here you go. Agenda 47. You've got the 10 points, 60. Oh, wow. 20 points. One of my favorite points right there. Keep men out of women's sports. If you haven't kept up with the latest Olympic controversy, you should. The Algerian boxer causing the causing the boxer from Italy, the female boxer from Italy, to quit 40-ish seconds into the first round. She literally had to quit. And her words were, "I have never been hit so hard in my life." And that's because a man has probably never been in the ring with her like that, trying to win a fight. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I don't know how the IOC is allowing it. I mean, this person was actually barred from participating in some World Boxing Championships last year because of test results that came through. And yet IOC is not properly testing anything at this point. So you could take a look at the platform here for Trump. Got events and everything. So I find that interesting. I mean, is that a sign of, let me go ahead and close this window out. Oh, get out of here. Give me my logo back. There we go. Is that a sign of, how forthcoming they're going to be, the thought process they'll put into play here? Whether they're doing this with some desire to improve things or they're doing this just for politics and for power. I mean, keep in mind, Trump was a billionaire. He did not need to run for the presidency to do what? Amass another $1 billion when he's already got multi-billion-dollar businesses and, riches in that vein. Like, at some point you realistically have to say, what difference is it going to make in your quality of life? It's just a numbers game at that point. And he had everything to lose and has lost quite a bit since that time point. All right, let's get this out of here. So, I mean, those are the points I'm looking at. The last thing I'll kind of leave you guys with is the upcoming debate that'll be very interesting, unfolding on Fox, evidently, not on ABC News. I don't know if everyone's aware that uh, Trump has actually filed a lawsuit, a defamation suit against ABC. So I don't know if that has something to do with him not going on ABC to do the debate. I don't know if that's part of it or what, but that's another interesting activity happening behind the scenes. I mean, this guy's got too many lawsuits going on. I hope he's able to just stay focused on this. But if you remember the tack that Trump had in the last debate with Joe Biden, he just kind of let Joe talk. And I wonder if that strategy is just as good this next time around. Just let Kamala talk. The word salad will just ensue from there. She'll talk about yellow school buses. She'll talk about USB ports and buses. Where will she go from, from that point? I think that he can just, stay collected, give a strong, stance on questions he's asked, and then let her just wander off into whatever, distant memory that she's trying to recall to share with everybody. And keep in mind too, the honeymoon period for her is likely starting to, go down. We'll probably see lower poll numbers for her headed into the convention. I don't know how the party will respond to that, if more people will start to get freaked out, if they'll demand new changes be taken at that point in time again. I just don't know. But it'll make for some interesting politics. All right. So those are the points I'm looking at in terms of Kamala. For me personally, those are elements that I either a demonstration of hypocrisy, lack of principle, misalignment with what would be good for my family. Right? I mean, I vote in terms of what's good for me and my family. I don't vote for giving money to that kid that made the bad decision to go to Columbia, spend $400,000 of money he didn't have so that he could get his degree in trans non-binary carbon neutral studies. I mean, that's not my problem. He had parents. They should have told him that was not a good idea. That's all on him. And if you haven't done so, go check out some of these videos of the Columbia students graduating, telling you what their emphasis was in college. They've literally made these things up. And they're dead serious, too. I mean, go take a look at it. All right, so what do we got here? Ground news. Oh, did you hear about the plea deal with the September 11th masterminds? That was a disaster. Looks like the Pentagon chief has just revoked that deal. But I mean, what a disaster! How could you even come to a deal with them? This is such a cut and dry case. It's not about retribution; it's about justice. And the trend that we've seen over time, the lax nature on law and order, especially when there's violent crimes like this, acts of terror. People need to be held accountable. The families need to heal to some degree, but I'm glad they changed that. And also news coming up last Friday, the U.S. we missed our jobs number on Friday. So unemployment went up, not as many jobs were created. Keep in mind, though, all the jobs that have been created in previous months were not all of high quality. When you just double click into it a bit, you'll see that a lot of the jobs that have been created over the past few months have been part-time, and part-time such that somebody who is already full-time employed is taking on an additional part-time job just to make ends meet. In fact, I've told folks this before, but there's a Redfin survey that was done, and if you're not familiar with Redfin, it's a site like Zillow, real estate aggregation and sales and so forth. But they surveyed home buyers or homeowners and renters and asked them various questions, and half of them came back to say that they have trouble making rent or paying their mortgage every month. Half. So we're starting to hear these little data points that are not compatible with the big numbers that they say inflation's going down, GDP's going up. Look, we're doing fine. Look at the stock market; it's skyrocketing, right? Those are all macro data points that matter for companies, for world economies. It's at a different layer that data is really something that matters, right? When you look at data from an individual standpoint like this is when you get a real sense of the economy faltering, right? Half of people struggle to pay their rent or mortgage on a monthly basis, and then a quarter of those people say they skip meals in order for them to actually make all the ends meet. I mean, that's an astonishing figure that's out there. And the survey was done just a couple of months ago. It's on Redfin, so you can check that out. So now you see the unemployment report saying, oh, unemployment's going up to 4.3%. Didn't have as many new jobs come into the economy. I wonder how many of those were actually part-time work for people that were already fully employed. But the other dynamic that's not being connected here too is you look at a company like American Express. They blew past their earnings targets. They had much higher earnings than Wall Street was expecting. So initially, I'm sure people excited about that. But then you look at a company like McDonald's, and their sales have slowed. Well, not just slowed. Their sales have gone down. They have a negative rate for their sales. I don't think people want to pay $20 for a McDonald's combo meal anymore. It's just not worth it, right? I mean, I can't get out of there without spending $60 now. It's astonishing. You bring some of these data points together: trouble making rent, skipping meals, American Express, reporting earnings that well blew past expectations of the market, and you can see that a lot of American Express's money is made through interest and through fees and other assessments they make, not necessarily on the transactions, right? So you can see what's going on here, right? The consumer is compounding their debt situation. People are unable to pay their mortgages. So now you're going to have a debt crisis of not only mortgages not being able to be paid, but you're also going to have unsecured loans that are not going to be able to be paid. Where's that next bailout going to come from? How is that not going to result in 20% rates of inflation or 20% interest rates going forward? And then for the folks that are still working, how do wages keep up in that scenario? I think I'll close it out there, but the last comment here is to say I don't think that Kamala is equipped to handle all these situations. She's just not equipped, does not have the experience, does not have executive experience specifically, and decision-making in this capacity, right? Not just like has she made a decision. Of course she's made a decision, but having the complexity and the acuity to understand the cause and effect of your decisions, the cascading effect that it has across the board. I just see a lack of intellectual interest and fluency with her that I don't think she's going to be able to keep up with Trump in the debates or even lead this country adequately. A lot of what she will do is exactly what Biden did, and that's to surround themselves with a team of individuals that are just going to feed them speeches and policies. So, with that said, I appreciate everybody tuning in. I hope y'all have a nice Sunday morning. Take care of yourselves.